Hi, this is Tutti Vanhala, an associate trainer for Art Ride. And here is one of my riding sessions with Pöly. It's actually recorded today on 19th of November. And I thought I'd just talk you through our session here. So this is also filmed with our new camera, the Solo Shot 3. And it's working really nicely, as you can see. It's a great camera so far, working very well. So here I just start straight on. I haven't had any warm up from the ground at all today, because we were again quite busy. It was a busy day, so I just about had time to ride Pöly while DJ was mucking out. So I just start with walking, and here's a bit of leg yield. What I'm concentrating on very hard on this session is to keep him straight, so that he does not fall through his left shoulder when I'm riding on the right hand here, because that happens very easily with him. And here you can see how he lifts his head way too high and loses his back totally, and I'm just gently asking him to move on and start working, and he does. So I'm concentrating on keeping him straight with his neck, so that he does not jackknife on me and just fall through his left shoulder. And I'm also able to keep some straight lines here, because the school is a lot better than yesterday. Yesterday it was just a bit of a mess, and I couldn't really keep any nice straight lines alongside. I just did a big oval yesterday, but today is a lot drier, and it's very good in the school today, except for a couple puddles, but that was all right, and it's not bothering too much. So here you can see also a little bit of him lifting his head way too high, so he was losing his back. This is still, he's warming up still, so I'm just asking him to yield here again, and he worked a lot better today than yesterday, I have to say. I was having a lot easier time on keeping him straight. As you can see, he's not overbending laterally with his neck hardly at all today, because I'm really concentrating on not letting him go through. And here also I remember thinking, like, okay, I don't mind if your head comes up too high for a moment there, because I was just concentrating on him not falling through his shoulder, and so I managed to keep him rather straight at that time. And then he's starting to stretch a little bit better there. So that's looking a bit better. And yeah, that's just him looking outside. He tends to do that. He gets a little bit distracted. They don't get very much movement in the paddock these days, because the paddock is like a potato field, and it's not fun there, and it's half frozen, so it's not very good and safe. It's not safe for them to gallop around, let's put it that way. And here you see a little bit of shoulder fore, which worked out pretty well. I also am concentrating very hard on keeping his neck rather straight on the shoulder fore. It's so easy that he overbends his neck and jackknives on me, so I'm just concentrating on that all the time here. And you can see here he puts his head a little bit too high. That's because I'm really asking him to not overbend, and he's thinking it's a bit difficult. I'm asking him a difficult deed finally. While I was riding, I was kind of analyzing the situation as well there, and I realized that I have kept to large circles for most of the time, so we haven't really done very many straight lines with him, come to think of it. So we're just keeping in big circles, and we've avoided the corners, and you know, that's what you should do, in fact, if you have a horse that doesn't have very much top line and they can't cope with the corners. So you should just keep to big wide circles and forget the corners. And I have been thinking that way for a long time, but now Pöly is definitely strong enough to cope with the corners. So I have to start thinking of putting him on straight lines again. And that's what I was doing today. I was really taking the long sides as much as possible, and the diagonals I was concentrating, like, yeah, we're going to go straight on the diagonal, and we are not going to wiggle, or we're not going to do a circle, we're just going to go straight. So that was the aim of today. And here you see he's yanking a little bit again, and that's him being stiff on his right side. And I'm again doing some leg yield. And what I'm doing here is I'm just trying to resist a little bit. So I'm not pulling back on him. I'm just resisting and trying to keep the contact quite similar. But that's his way of telling me that it's a bit stiff. It's a bit difficult. But I do allow him to stretch down. I just don't want him to yank very hard. As you can see there, sometimes he's just pushing his head down very, very forcefully. And so I'm just walking. I'm asking him to just move on. And sometimes I feel that he's slightly curling from me, and then I'm just taking a little bit of a lean back and just asking him to move on. And he usually comes out there, and there's a big puddle there, and he has to always have a little bit of a look at it, and lift his wet head, lift his hooves a little bit more than necessary. Here I wanted to do leg yield. Oh no, I'm managing to. Oh, okay, it was a bit later on. The leg yield was a little bit distracted, but here he's also distracted. There's some horses coming around far away across the field, and he has to have a look, because all the horses at the back of the camera here are looking that way, so he has to have a look. That's what he's doing there. There's three horses are coming back from a hack just there along the road, so all the horses were looking, and one of them was galloping around like an idiot in the field as well. So Pöly was feeling a bit tense there. And hence we have a bit of a wiggle there. He had to have another look, like what's coming? Everybody's looking, I have to look as well. And the same here, he's looking at the horses who are coming from a hack, and I wanted to make another leg yield from the center line, but it's not really working because he's not paying attention. So I decided to do a circle instead. I thought, I'm just gonna circle here, because he's losing his concentration. I'm kind of losing him, so I'm just thinking, okay, we do a circle, I'm gonna get you back into work mode, and here we go. Obviously, once we face the horses, he's gonna look up again there. But he's more concentrated now, so he listens to my leg there, so that's great. So it's a little bit below zero here. We have our temperatures, but the school was soft still, so that was great. Don't have to put studs on yet. It's not yet slippery, but it was very cold, very cold. But I got warm riding, so that's good. So did Pöly. Yeah. So he's still distracted by those horses that are coming, and he's just looking around a little bit more. Unfortunately, I forgot my whip, so I don't have anything extra, and I don't ride with spurs either, because I'm still not trusting my lower leg so much, and I've actually never ridden with spurs yet, so it's something I might consider sometime later on. So here I'm doing another shoulder 4, trying to keep his attention, although he's facing those other horses now. It's far more interesting than me. Yep. So, but never mind. I'm thinking like, oh well, we'll just settle in. And he does. He doesn't spook over them. He just has to have a look. So this left side is a little bit trickier in that I have to concentrate on asking him to move from my inside leg to the outside hand a lot on this rein, because his right side is stiff, or stiffer than his left, and he finds it obviously a bit hard to stretch that side and bend laterally. Obviously he has to first bend longitudinally and come over, kind of start working better over his back before he can start bending laterally. But he's a little bit, he needs a little bit my support here. And here they come, the riders are coming to the yard. So they appeared behind the buildings there, so he had to have another look. So here's what I'm doing all the time is like I'm just concentrating on asking him to not look outside, and I'm concentrating on my outside hand, that I have a contact there, and I have very little contact on the inside, because I'm trying to avoid putting any pressure, any more pressure than the weight of rein on the inside. It is very tempting to put more weight on the inside because he wants to look out, and then your instinctively want to do something with your inside hand, and I'm fighting against that feeling, and I'm just trying to keep it very soft, and I'm using my inside leg to drive him to the outside hand. And here we took a trot, and I just thought, okay, let's keep to the circle first. This is how he usually starts his trot work. He's a little bit tense and he's just looking up. Sometimes he kind of thinks that it would be much more fun to canter, but not today. But he has to still have a look at those horses that have just come up to the yard, and some of them are going past the camera there, so he has to have another look. So that's why he's a little bit inattentive again. But I just let him get on with it. In the beginning he always feels a little bit as if he's kind of just running, and I just let him do that for a couple of rounds, and just let him kind of wait to see if he settles into it before I do anything. Basically I'm just asking him to move on, go around the arena, and just keeping a contact and asking him to just work through his top line. Like here he's hollow, and he's starting to work better there. And I'm also concentrating on the inside leg to the outside hand. Obviously on this, especially on this rein, it's so important there. And there you can see how light my contact actually is. I'm just, when he wants to stretch, I'm just going to let him do that, and I'm asking him to just work all the time anyway. But for these couple first rounds, I'm just going around and let him find his stride. And there it starts to look a lot better. He's starting to work, but it is always a little bit distractive here, and the camera has a very bright green light when it's on and it's recording, so he's also having a look at that every now and then. And obviously the camera turns by itself, so it is also something he probably has a look at, but he does not spook over it, so that's great. So here I decided, like, okay, now we had our rounds of just trotting around, so let's try some leg yielding, and it went actually pretty well. The same thing, he complains a little bit there, like, oh, that was difficult, but he worked quite well through it, and it's definitely better than yesterday. And here he goes a bit hollow when I'm asking him to yield again, but I'm just insisting quietly and he's not quite there yet. He needs to still warm up a bit more. Just a little easier leg yields there. I'm just conscious of starting it easy on this rein because I know he needs his time to warm up and get more supple. So I just let him have that time. And here I'm doing a little bit, I'm asking just a tad of shoulder 4 on that long side. And oh, there you see a spooky. There was a spook. I have no idea what he spooked over, but it was okay. It was over in a couple of seconds, and I just went straight into shoulder 4 there, and he just never mind. His spooks are not that bad when it's light. When it's dark, he can be quite interesting. So we don't tend to ride him when it's pitch dark because it's not worth it. It's not worth the risk that somebody might get hurt. So we usually lunge him when it's dark. So I am actually allowing him to stretch whenever he wants, but I'm just following his head and keeping the contact here. So it's basically him that is not quite stretching very much yet. And you can see there he's kind of yanking and he's feeling it still. He's feeling his stiff side still. It's not warm up yet. And here I decided to do a couple of rounds on the circle. I'm thinking of cantering, so I'm thinking, okay, I'm just gonna have a feel how the school surface is around there. It is ever so slightly frosty on the front there, where there's a couple of bigger ponds, but otherwise it was pretty soft and it wasn't soggy. So here I'm asking for canter. I was leaning a little bit forward there, so not so brilliant start, but never mind, we're cantering. And he stays a little bit tense in the beginning, but I'm just holding a very light contact and I'm just a little bit pushing him with my inside leg a little bit more. And there I came back to trot. I could feel that he wasn't ready to stretch on that canter, so I thought, okay, we just keep it couple of rounds, and I patted him there because he gave me a couple of strides of quite nice yield. Yes, quite supple yield. And usually the canter helps a lot to supple him up. It just warms him up that little bit more, so he can start working better. And yeah. And there I ask another canter. That went already a lot better. And there he's starting to work better and is starting to think about stretching. There we are. A little bit. It's still a little bit difficult for him to really stretch and in the canter, but he's going for it at times. And he definitely has energy for it, so that's very nice. It's quite rewarding to canter him. And then we have a little bit of a rush trot always afterwards. So, but I don't mind. I don't really concentrate on the transitions yet. I'm just letting them come as they are. And when he's stronger and fitter still, then it'll come good as well. So I think, yeah, I feel that the trot is better after those canters, and you can see here still that I'm really keeping an eye on the outside rein, and just there I'm changing rein, and he went a little bit hollow there on the beginning of the diagonal. And here as well, it's a little bit, I'm asking for a leg yield, then to just come on, start working, mate. And here is another leg yield, which is pretty okay considering that it's the side where he tends to just drift out through his shoulder, so that was pretty okay. I would still like if he would stretch a little bit more down and out with his neck, but it's not bad, and not bad for him. And there was a little bit of shoulder 4, just so that I'm really asking him to just move on. And here I'm really considering a straight along the long side, because we always tend to do those circles and we always tend to bend him on the, obviously you want to bend on the circle, so he's used to that, he's used to bending, and now I'm just wanting to go straight on the long side. I'm just doing something different for us. Instead of shoulder 4 or a big circle or something, I'm just going straight. And here comes some other person walking from the field, so we had to have a look at that. And just a little bit of leg yield there, and then I'm just concentrating going straight again, and he's starting to, he was really nice and straight today on the straight line, so that was good. And here he's looking again at the person coming, and I think I'm just asking him to move on. And he's just, yeah, you can see the person there walking to the stables, so that's what one has to have a look at. And then another, just a slight leg yield there to the track, and then I'm asking for canter, but yeah, that was not such a nice transition either. But as I said, I'm not really bothered about them. And here he tends to fall in quite easily on this end, so I have to keep my inside leg quite happily on quite often, and just supple him up with the inside rein, so I tend to need to soften him gently with the inside rein there, not like pulling or anything, but just gently making sure that he does not start leaning on it. And today I felt that he was starting to lean on my outside hand, so I needed to release it every now and then from the contact. So I just picked up a contact, and I just fraction of a second I gave it and I took it back. Again, not pulling or yanking or anything, just how would you describe that? I don't know. I'm just slight give and take, but not pulling, just give and take a little bit, so that he does not, because he felt quite solid on the rein, and I don't want that. I want him to be soft, and he was feeling a bit solid. So that's what I'm doing here as well, and start to work, because he's starting to release his neck finally. Finally. Yeah, it's only been like a bit over 20 minutes, but that's actually what it takes to warm him up properly, especially on these days when, yeah, here I wanted to canter again. I was thinking I'm asking something else, but I mean from the long side, but it didn't work, so I just decided, okay, I'm just gonna trot on a little bit. I'm just trying to make him work better, and then I asked again, and then it worked pretty well. So he's running here a little bit too much, and he's obviously head high, and he's, yeah, that was, I think DJ came around with the, yes, that was DJ coming around with a load of hay and haylage. So this is why, this is why Pöly decided, like, hang on, who's coming? It's food for me. Let's stop this work and do something. But now he's starting, his trot is finally starting to look nice, and he's reaching better, and he's, as you can see, his the stride had gone kind of longer and softer and more reaching. here I actually wanted to ask another canter because, well, we got interrupted by DJ, so, but it didn't work. As you can see, he just started running in trot, and then I just thought, okay, I'm not asking a canter, I'm just gonna want you to come back to me first, and then I asked another transition. Here you see he's running, and then he's working. So it's he had loads of energy, and here there was a nice bit before I came back to trot. You couldn't quite see it from the video here, but he gave me a really nice stretch in the canter, and that was really good. And you can see how it helps his trot. It's a lot better than what I started with. And he started to feel that he's really working properly through his body instead of running a little bit. And here, just a tad of leg yield again to the track, and I really patted him for that, because he did not change anything. He just went sideways and back to the track. And yeah, now the trot is starting to work better. Ah yes, much better. And I'm still concentrating on keeping him straight with his neck, and that he's not falling through his shoulder. And it's working really. It worked really well today. And here I was asking for a little bit more from him, and he just rushed and lifted his head up a little bit there in the middle, and then he, after a while, he started. So there you can see DJ, he's going back with an empty wheelbarrow now. He's coming to see what's going on. So that was actually the end of our session here. The tracker didn't pick me up because I was a bit too close, so that's why I just filmed DJ for a while. So that's me. That was our session. I hope you enjoyed it. Bye.